I've been asked many times to explain the difference between AccuMatch and other assessments out there. What's the reason that top performers are using AccuMatch rather than some of the other tools out there? What makes it unique for you, for your client, your team members, etc.? So who's using it? That's really the starting point. You want to know what types of people are making use of this so that you can decide whether this is a good fit for you. Let's start simply. We've got psychologists, PhDs, entrepreneurs, leaders, HR managers, various types of people in different backgrounds actually applying this. And the reason they do that is the two things. The speed at which somebody else learns about themselves and the objective relationship that it creates without judgment, without filters, and so forth. So that allows them to make decisions to help others rather than projecting onto them. So some more examples. You've got coaches saying that, HR managers. These are all kinds of the opportunities that you have to be able to take advantage of that. It's actually quite fun and exciting when you see the expressions on people as you help them through the interpretation. And that's really the guiding principle that we use with the AccuMatch. We don't have labels, we don't have reports that judge people or put them in a box. This is really a self-discovery program through guided interpretation. That's really the key. We guide other people to interpret information about themselves that shows up in the map. Because when they discover it for themselves, as it says on the slide here, they own it, right? In coaching, in leadership, even in recruiting, we have so many biases and filters that we go through. And when we're observing other people and we decide what is wrong with somebody else, we start to project what sort of changes they need to make. We start to talk about how they could grow and elevate their career, whatever it is that they are doing, whether it's business, as a business owner, coach, even coaches themselves. We've seen examples of coaches shift from a small one-person practice on their own to being a serial entrepreneur with multiple businesses. We see psychologists coming to the table and saying, this is helping me remove my biases and filters and judgments instead of labeling people and trying to identify what is going on with them. I help them go through that journey. This is the real important stuff that we are really discovering by using AccuMatch. So it's shifting how we work with people. It's shifting how we engage, how we interact. And when we reduce our biases, our filters, we reduce judgment, we reduce conflict, we become more open to lots of possibilities with different people. Not everybody is the same. There is no paintbrush that works for everybody. With over 8 billion people now on the planet, there is 1 trillion combinations. And to be able to study all of that is quite difficult. It takes years and in some cases decades. We've had coaches say, I spent 2 years with a client and I thought I knew them, but AccuMatch showed me where I was missing a lot of valuable information. Other coaches have said, when I meet a prospect, I'm trying to anticipate what they like, how they're going to work with me. And what I'm discovering is often my biases, my own filters, are getting in the way of a true perspective. And AccuMatch allows me to shift that. The number of times that they've said, I thought I knew them, but I was wrong. AccuMatch corrected me because the client that I was working with, the team member that I was working with, actually provided the clarity which showed up in the map. These are important parts of how we use this and why it works so well. The thing to remember is, people can't just change on a dime. Some people change more quickly, others take longer. And so there's a journey that they need to go through in order to achieve that top performance. And the example of Ikigai on the screen there is an important one because it evolved from the learning and experience. It's actually a Japanese program that allows you to really understand yourself, your value, in French, it's le raison d'être. In many languages, la dolce vita, there's just so many variations, but they all say the same thing is, who am I? Okay? And that's really the starting point is, who am I is the self-awareness about who I am. Before you can be aware about other people, first, it's really important to learn about yourself. AccuMatch allows us to do that. In fact, I use it. Every coach that I work with, they'll tell you they have the map of themselves with their client side by side or overlaid through the system so that they can understand how they will interact with other people. And leaders are doing the same thing. HR managers, when they're interviewing people, all of that is really the power of the understanding that we are showing up in a way that interacts with other people, and that interaction can cause different responses. So knowing ourselves first allows us to then understand others better, and so that's really the second stage of doing that. The third stage is then being an observer when you are working with teams and seeing the dynamics between other people. And so that observer trait is also part of that journey. And not many people get there very quickly. Instantly. There are people, and I've met some people that have a very powerful observer trait, but not a strong self-awareness trait. Right? They can often see other people's perspective, but again, it's a threefold journey that requires you to understand yourself, understand others, and then be an observer to see how the dynamic works between people when they are engaging in a discussion or a conflict. All of those things become part of that journey. Now, in business, we talk about, okay, how do you create a very successful team that is all rowing in the same direction together? And the answer is AccuMatch allows us to then look at people in their role versus their natural behavioral instinct, their automatic unconscious responses that we see in a map. So when people understand themselves and we understand their strengths and weaknesses, we can not only craft a performance guideline to improve them, but we can also help them to shift in a role that is more suited for them. I just think, there have been so many examples where I've seen coaches bring maps to our mastermind group, and as we discuss them, they're questioning whether helping somebody transform, change, adapt is important, or whether that person may be in a wrong role and they need to look at a different role. So that's a balance that only the person you're talking to can make that decision. Right? It's up to them. If they have very strong aspirations for development, growth, they're a big dreamer, maybe they want to be an entrepreneur, and they're not there, then the transformation makes sense. If they're just really unhappy in their role and they're not willing to change too much, they like who they are, they want to stay in their skin the way they are today, then maybe they might need to look for a different role within the same organization or in another organization. So all of these things are really what the AccuMatch allows us to expose and do. So it's just to wrap up, I've also had people say, wow, there's so many points on the graph. How do you learn that? Well, the reality is the specificity gives far more clarity than what we've had in the past is labels that get thrown around. And those labels can be interpreted in so many different ways that they become unhelpful. Okay, they actually cause problems. They cause people to use them as an excuse to continue to behave the way they are. We throw labels around without really taking a good look at the specific behavior. What is imposter syndrome? Is it a behavior? Of course it is. You can observe it. It's both internal and externally observable. So that conversation becomes really important to unpack the label rather than do that. The systems that we've seen in the past really fell short of providing the clarity. And by clarity, I mean the specificity. What do I work on? What's the right behavior? It might just be one point on the map, on the AccuMatch map, that is the critical thing that if that shifts will have a ripple effect on the person, their lifestyle, their success. And the amazing thing is AccuMatch also provides that tangible progression that you can see how people are progressing through time. So doing the map over time and basically, as I said earlier, using it consistently, having it in front of you all the time, working with it, to be aware of what you are working on, focus on what you're working on is where change can really occur. Unlike a lot of reports that get thrown in a drawer or in the garbage, I met someone a few years back, a business entrepreneur, very bright young man, and he's done so many assessments. He had a file this big, and if you ever walk in his office and ask him to show you that, he has to go and find it because it's not right there in front of him. He's not using it as part of his development and the development of other people. So that is also a critical point. You can just do this once, forget it, throw it in a drawer, and never change, right? So the importance here is to figure out the way to transform. By doing so, we're seeing amazing results, as I'm sharing on the screen there. Significant success with clients, significant success with team members, the growth of companies. Everyone is experiencing a significant growth and consistency. Okay, so in a coaching practice, consistency is important. Consistency in getting results leads to longer retention, more referrals, higher reputation, all of which, I'm sure the 80% there is a very small example. It's probably more like 300-400% growth for a lot of coaches out there. In business, leaders are reporting a huge growth in their business because of everybody rowing together. We'll talk about that in another session. But when you have people aligned through the behavior, but also aligned to their role, their task, and these things are in place, you're bound to experience significant growth. So that's important. the other thing is the reduction in stress, in anxiety, in the level of effort to, drag people along all the time because of what you see and they don't see what you are observing. So you're actually dragging them into where you think they need to go, and that's quite a lot of work. So we're removing that element by helping them. It is a interpreted, guided assessment tool. It is not going to give you a report of what you are like and what you're not like and what you can enjoy. That's horoscopes. What it's going to give you is a tool to help them go through the discovery. And why it's important to do it over and over again is we evolve, we change, our priorities change. I often talk to business owners and go, look, your vision today is based on your knowledge and experience today. We're going to elevate your knowledge, your experience. We're going to help you reach a higher level of knowledge and experience. So your dreams are going to change, your priorities are going to change. And so doing the map with people over and over again allows them to see where they've gone to, where they've shifted from and to where, to then reaching the objective of what's next for them. We're not going to be stagnant. That's just not human nature. We're constantly learning, we're constantly evolving. And so we want to do this time and time again to reach higher and higher success and values. So summing it up, basically, that's where we're at, and that clarity is important for everyone working on their own, with others, in a team. All of these things are valuable for you to take advantage of. So thank you for listening. I hope that was valuable. I look forward to seeing you online in one of our groups.